In the ancient annals of history, countless mysteries and legends surround the life and image of Jesus Christ. Among these is a remarkable and controversial document, Pontius Pilate's letter to Emperor Tiberius. This letter allegedly describes Jesus' physical appearance in vivid detail, revealing information about his skin color, facial features, and overall demeanor. Could this be the most direct account of what Jesus truly looked like? Join us as we dive into the details of this shocking historical claim and explore the profound implications it might hold for believers and skeptics alike. To truly grasp the significance of Pontius Pilate's alleged letter describing Jesus, we must first understand the political, social, and cultural landscape of the time. Pontius Pilate was appointed the Roman governor of Judea around AD 26 by Emperor Tiberius, a position fraught with tension. Judea was a hotbed of unrest, with simmering hostilities between the Roman occupiers and the Jewish population. Pilate's role as prefect was not only to maintain peace, but also to ensure the flow of taxes to Rome and uphold Roman law. This often placed him in direct conflict with the Jewish religious leaders and the local populace. Pilate's tenure was marked by a series of controversial actions that exacerbated tensions. He was known for his harsh methods of control, including deploying Roman standards bearing the image of the emperor into Jerusalem, an act considered idolatrous by the Jewish community. He also reportedly misappropriated temple funds to build an aqueduct, inciting public protests that were brutally suppressed. These incidents illustrate a man caught between his duty to the empire and the volatile religious sensitivities of his jurisdiction. Enter Jesus of Nazareth, a figure whose growing following presented both a political and religious challenge. While Jesus was primarily a spiritual leader, his teachings often clashed with the authority of the Pharisees and Sadducees, the Jewish leaders who held sway over religious law. More concerning for the Romans, the idea of Jesus being proclaimed King of the Jews posed a potential threat to Roman sovereignty. Pilate found himself at the center of this storm during the Passover festival, when the Jewish leaders brought Jesus before him, demanding his crucifixion. The Gospels depict Pilate as a reluctant participant in Jesus' execution. He famously washed his hands before the crowd, symbolizing his attempt to distance himself from the decision. However, Pilate's motivations remain the subject of debate. Was he truly hesitant, or was his act of public absolution a calculated move to appease both the Roman authorities and the Jewish leaders? This moment of political and moral ambiguity sets the stage for the purported letter he wrote to Emperor Tiberius. The alleged letter itself, addressed to the most powerful man in the world at the time, would have carried immense weight. Pilate, a man deeply concerned with his own reputation and position, would have understood the gravity of his words. The letter is said to describe Jesus' appearance, character, and demeanor in striking detail, offering a rare and intimate glimpse into the figure at the heart of Christianity. Whether the letter was intended to justify Pilate's actions, seek guidance from Tiberius, or simply document an extraordinary event, its content continues to intrigue historians and theologians. Understanding the historical context of Pilate's governance and his interaction with Jesus provides a foundation for analyzing the letter itself. It raises questions about Pilate's perception of Jesus, not just as a religious leader, but as a man whose presence left an indelible mark on history. Was Pilate's description a reflection of admiration, a strategic political account, or an attempt to grapple with the profound mystery of the man he sentenced to death? The alleged letter from Pontius Pilate to Emperor Tiberius is one of the most compelling yet controversial documents in the annals of Christian history. The letter is said to provide a detailed description of Jesus' physical appearance, as well as insights into his personality and demeanor. While the authenticity of the letter is a matter of intense debate, the content attributed to Pilate is undeniably captivating. According to the letter, Pilate describes Jesus as a man of striking appearance, with an aura that set him apart from others. His skin is described as having a hue suggestive of Middle Eastern heritage, with a complexion that radiated a healthy glow. His hair is said to be of a rich chestnut color, flowing freely in waves and parted at the crown. This detail contrasts sharply with the often stylized images of Jesus in Western art, where his hair is depicted as straight and blonde. The letter further notes that Jesus' beard was of a similar color to his hair, neatly arranged and lending a sense of dignity to his face. His eyes are described as piercing and expressive, capable of conveying both compassion and authority. Pilate reportedly remarked on the balance of strength and gentleness in Jesus' features, suggesting a man who commanded respect without arrogance. Perhaps most intriguing is Pilate's description of Jesus' demeanor. He portrays him as serene, composed, and deeply wise, with a calm presence that seemed to transcend the chaos around him. Pilate allegedly admitted to being struck by Jesus' silence during his trial, interpreting it not as defiance, but as a profound sense of purpose. The letter also emphasizes Jesus' physical stature, noting that he was taller than most of his contemporaries and carried himself with an air of nobility. The document goes on to detail Jesus' manner of speaking, which Pilate found extraordinary. Though not loud or forceful, Jesus' words carried a magnetic quality that drew listeners in and compelled them to reflect deeply. Pilate reportedly wrote that Jesus spoke with authority and simplicity, delivering profound truths in a way that even the most unlearned could understand. Additionally, Pilate's letter hints at the reaction Jesus inspired in those who encountered him. He mentions that Jesus was adored by his followers, but also deeply envied by the religious leaders of the time. Pilate is said to have observed an unusual dynamic. While some were moved to tears in his presence, others were filled with hatred, unable to bear the light of his character. This polarizing effect, according to Pilate, underscored the unique and mysterious nature of the man. The alleged letter also touches on Jesus' clothing, describing him as wearing simple yet immaculate garments. This detail aligns with the biblical portrayal of Jesus as a humble figure, uninterested in worldly wealth or status. Pilate reportedly remarked on how Jesus' outward simplicity was contrasted by an inner majesty that seemed almost supernatural. Whether or not this letter is authentic, the vivid descriptions attributed to Pilate offer a glimpse into the fascination and reverence Jesus inspired. For believers, the letter serves as a potential affirmation of Jesus' uniqueness. For skeptics, it raises questions about historical perception and the human tendency to mythologize extraordinary figures. Regardless, the details provided in this document continue to spark curiosity and debate, inviting us to reconsider how we imagine and understand the historical Jesus. The authenticity of Pontius Pilate's alleged letter to Emperor Tiberius has been a source of fierce debate among historians, theologians, and skeptics. If genuine, the letter would offer a rare and invaluable primary source detailing the physical appearance and demeanor of Jesus Christ from the perspective of a key historical figure. However, the questions surrounding its origins, content, and context make it a contentious document that warrants careful examination. The first issue to consider is the historical plausibility of such a letter. During the Roman Empire, correspondence between provincial governors and the emperor was common, particularly regarding matters of political or social unrest. Given the significant events surrounding Jesus' trial and crucifixion, it is conceivable that Pilate, aware of the potential fallout, might have written to Tiberius to explain his actions. Such a letter could have served as a justification for condemning a figure who was perceived as a threat to Roman authority or as a request for advice in handling the delicate situation in Judea. However, no known contemporary Roman sources explicitly mention this letter, and its existence was not widely discussed until centuries after Pilate's death. This absence from early historical records raises questions about its authenticity. The letter's sudden appearance in later Christian traditions, often in apocryphal or dubious contexts, suggests it may have been a later creation, designed to lend historical credibility to the figure of Jesus or to humanize Pilate in the Christian narrative. One critical area of scrutiny is the style and language of the letter. Scholars often analyze the writing style of ancient documents to determine their authenticity. If the language, phrasing, or tone of the letter aligns with what we know of Roman administrative correspondence, it might lend credibility to the claim. Conversely, if the letter employs anachronistic terminology or reflects a theological perspective more in line with later Christian thought, it would strongly suggest a forgery. Some versions of the letter that have surfaced contain phrases that seem overly sympathetic to Jesus, or even include theological reflections, which would be highly unusual for a Roman governor steeped in imperial ideology. Another issue is the medium through which the letter was preserved. Authentic Roman documents from Pilate's era would likely have been written on papyrus or parchment and stored in imperial archives, which were often lost or destroyed over time. The alleged letter of Pilate, however, has been passed down through later Christian writings, often without a clear chain of custody. This lack of verifiable provenance casts doubt on its reliability. Critics argue that the letter could have been a pious fraud, a document created by early Christians to bolster faith or to provide a tangible link to the events of the Gospels. Despite these doubts, there are arguments in favor of the letter's potential authenticity. Pilate is a figure who has been both vilified and rehabilitated in history, and some suggest that a Roman governor who encountered someone as enigmatic as Jesus might have felt compelled to document the experience. Pilate's interactions with Jesus, as described in the Gospels, depict a man conflicted about the situation, an impression that could lend plausibility to the idea of a detailed account being sent to Rome. Furthermore, the letter's description of Jesus aligns with certain non-biblical traditions about his appearance, including references to his commanding presence and serene demeanor. These descriptions do not appear to be entirely fabricated, as they reflect a consistency with the reverence and awe Jesus inspired, even among some of his detractors. Proponents argue that these details could point to an oral tradition or a genuine record that was later incorporated into the letter. The question of authenticity also extends to Pilate's character and motivations. If Pilate did write such a letter, it may not have been purely factual. Roman governors were adept politicians who understood the power of rhetoric in influencing their superiors. Pilate's account of Jesus might have been crafted to present himself in a favorable light, or to downplay his role in the crucifixion. The letter could thus be a mix of fact and self-serving embellishment, making it both historically valuable and suspect. Ultimately, The debate over the letter's authenticity highlights the challenges of reconstructing history from fragmented and disputed sources. While the letter remains an intriguing piece of the puzzle, it is not universally accepted as genuine by scholars. Its significance lies not only in what it might reveal about Jesus, but also in how it reflects the enduring fascination with his life and the figures who shaped his story. Whether fact or fabrication, Pilate's letter continues to captivate the imagination, inviting us to ponder the interplay between faith, history, and myth. Throughout history, the image of Jesus Christ has been depicted in countless ways, reflecting the cultural, theological, and artistic perspectives of different eras and societies. The alleged description of Jesus in Pilate's letter provides a fascinating lens through which to examine how his image has evolved over centuries. Whether or not the letter is authentic, its vivid portrayal challenges and complements the visual and narrative depictions of Jesus that have become ingrained in global consciousness. Early representations of Jesus were influenced heavily by the cultural context of the regions where Christianity first took root. In the earliest centuries of the faith, Christians avoided direct depictions of Jesus due to concerns about idolatry and persecution. Instead, they used symbols such as the fish, ichthys, the lamb, and the shepherd to represent him. When Jesus did appear in art, he was often depicted as a youthful, beardless figure, resembling Greco-Roman depictions of philosophers or gods. These images were less concerned with historical accuracy and more focused on conveying theological messages, such as his divinity and role as a teacher. By the Byzantine era, depictions of Jesus began to standardize, often presenting him with long hair, a beard, and a solemn expression. Icons such as the Pantocrator image portrayed him as both majestic and approachable, embodying his dual nature as fully divine and fully human. The Pilate letter's description of Jesus' serene demeanor and commanding presence aligns with these artistic traditions, which sought to emphasize his spiritual authority and inner calm. The European Renaissance brought a significant shift in how Jesus was portrayed. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Raphael depicted him as a distinctly European figure with pale skin, light hair, and blue eyes. These portrayals reflected the cultural and racial biases of the time, as well as the artists' desire to make Jesus relatable to their predominantly European audiences. This image of Jesus became deeply entrenched in Western art and popular culture, shaping how millions of Christians envisioned their Savior. In contrast, depictions of Jesus in other parts of the world often reflected local features and traditions. In Ethiopia, the vibrant icons of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church portray Jesus with dark skin and African features, emphasizing his connection to the people of the region. Similarly, in Asia, Christian communities have depicted Jesus with East Asian features, dressed in traditional robes and settings familiar to their cultures. These regional interpretations highlight the universality of Jesus' message, allowing believers to see him as one of their own. The alleged description in Pilate's letter complicates these artistic traditions by suggesting a physical appearance that does not fully align with any one portrayal. The letter's depiction of Jesus as having a Middle Eastern complexion, chestnut-colored hair, and expressive eyes is consistent with his Jewish heritage and the geographic context of his life. This description challenges the Eurocentric depictions that dominated Western art for centuries, while also resonating with efforts in modern times to depict Jesus more accurately based on historical and archaeological evidence. Modern forensic reconstructions have further fueled the debate over Jesus' appearance. Using historical records and the skeletal remains of first-century Jewish men, scientists have created models that depict Jesus with darker skin, short, curly hair, and a robust build. Features that align more closely with the description in Pilate's letter than with Renaissance portrayals. These reconstructions have sparked conversations about the importance of portraying Jesus in ways that reflect his historical and cultural reality. The Pilate letter also touches on qualities that transcend physical appearance, such as Jesus' demeanor, charisma, and spiritual presence. These aspects have been central to artistic and literary depictions of Jesus throughout history. Whether portrayed as the suffering servant on the cross, the triumphant risen Lord, or the compassionate healer, artists have sought to capture the essence of Jesus' character as described in the Gospels and, potentially, in Pilate's account. In contemporary times, the diversity of Jesus' portrayals has expanded even further. Artists, filmmakers, and writers from various cultural and ethnic backgrounds have reimagined Jesus in ways that speak to their unique experiences and perspectives. These depictions serve as reminders of Jesus' universal appeal and the profound impact of his life and teachings. The alleged description of Jesus in Pilate's letter serves as a compelling focal point for re-examining the historical and cultural evolution of his image. It invites us to reflect on the ways in which art, culture, and theology intersect to shape our understanding of one of history's most influential figures. Whether viewed as a historical document, a work of fiction, or a spiritual meditation, the letter provides a bridge between the historical Jesus and the many ways he has been envisioned and revered throughout the ages. The alleged description of Jesus in Pontius Pilate's letter carries profound implications, both spiritually and culturally. Whether or not the letter is authentic, the vivid portrayal of Jesus invites believers and non-believers alike to reflect on how physical descriptions, personal characteristics, and historical accounts shape our understanding of who Jesus was and is. This document, whether real or symbolic, challenges us to consider the intersection of faith, history, and cultural identity in ways that resonate deeply across generations. On a spiritual level, the description in Pilate's letter provides a humanizing glimpse of Jesus. For believers, the notion of seeing Jesus as a real man with specific physical features and an unforgettable presence enhances the mystery of his incarnation. The Bible emphasizes that Jesus was both fully human and fully divine, yet his physical appearance is left largely to the imagination. Pilate's letter fills that void with a vivid image of a man who radiated dignity, wisdom, and compassion, qualities that transcend his physical features. This portrayal also deepens the connection between Jesus and his followers. The idea that Pilate, a Roman governor who ultimately condemned Jesus, could be so struck by his presence and character suggests that Jesus' influence extended even to those who did not fully understand or accept him. For Christians, this serves as a reminder of Jesus' universal appeal and his ability to touch hearts across cultural and political divides. Pilate's depiction invites contemplation of Jesus as not just a historical figure, but as a living presence whose essence continues to inspire faith and devotion. Culturally, the letter sparks important conversations about identity and representation. For centuries, depictions of Jesus have often been shaped by the cultural and racial biases of the societies that portrayed him. In the West, for instance, the image of a light-skinned, blue-eyed Jesus became dominant, even though it was historically inaccurate. The description in Pilate's letter, with its references to Jesus' Middle Eastern complexion, challenges these depictions and encourages a more accurate representation of his heritage. This shift is significant in a modern world that increasingly values diversity and inclusivity. For some, the letter also raises questions about the relationship between faith and historical accuracy. Does it matter what Jesus looked like? For many believers, the answer is both yes and no. On one hand, Jesus' physical appearance is secondary to his teachings, sacrifice, and resurrection. On the other hand, a more historically grounded image of Jesus can help bridge the gap between faith and reason, making his story more accessible and relatable to people of different backgrounds. The letter's description of Jesus' demeanor, his serenity, authority, and profound charisma, has implications beyond the spiritual realm. It paints a picture of a leader who was both humble and commanding, a figure who could inspire love and provoke hostility in equal measure. This dynamic is reflected in the impact Jesus has had on world history. From the spread of Christianity to the countless movements for social justice that have drawn inspiration from his life and teachings. The polarizing effect of Jesus, as described in Pilate's letter, also resonates in contemporary times. Just as Jesus inspired devotion and envy in his own day, his legacy continues to evoke both admiration and controversy. The letter reminds us that Jesus was not merely a figure of comfort and peace, but also a revolutionary whose presence challenged the status quo. This duality makes him a timeless symbol of both hope and transformation. In a broader sense, the letter serves as a reflection of humanity's enduring fascination with Jesus. Whether viewed as a religious savior, a moral teacher, or a historical enigma, Jesus remains one of the most influential figures in history. Pilate's alleged description of him invites us to see Jesus not only as he might have appeared in the first century, but also as he continues to be envisioned in the hearts and minds of people today. The cultural and spiritual impact of this letter lies in its ability to provoke reflection and dialogue. For those of faith, it can deepen their understanding of Jesus' humanity and divinity. For skeptics, it offers an opportunity to explore the historical figure of Jesus and the ways in which he has been interpreted and reinterpreted over time. Ultimately, Pilate's description transcends its historical context, inviting us to ponder the mystery of a man whose life, teachings, and legacy have shaped the course of human history. In the end, whether the letter is fact, fiction, or something in between, its greatest significance may lie in the questions it raises. Who was Jesus? How do we see him today? And what does his life mean for us as individuals and as a global community? These are the questions that have inspired billions over the centuries, and they remain as relevant as ever.